The 2026 Shelby County mayoral race is heating up, and we are profiling each candidate way ahead of time. And here today is J.W. Gibson. As you would know, if you're from Memphis or in Shelby County, a well-known businessman here. Thank you for being with us today.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here.
Of course. So, CEO of Gibson Companies, you're born and raised Memphian. Before we get into how your expertise just, plays into your campaign and how you can do the job, why do you think now is a good time for you to run for county mayor?
So, from my perspective, we have been digging ourselves a hole for the last couple of decades with poor leadership. And I know that's a very strong statement. However, if you take a look at this community, and I'm not just talking about Memphis, I'm talking about Shelby County as a whole, the last decade for sure has been trying. And I'm one of those people who love this community so much. I put a lot into this community, not only from a business perspective, but also a philanthropy perspective. And as I see continuously people leaving the community, as I see continuously crime increase, healthcare being lessened, safety being lessened, it's a concern to me. And I feel now is the time for someone to step up who has the vision to talk about how we increase revenues versus how we increase fees and taxes.
Okay, so you did already hit on my next question. Just what are the top issues you think are plaguing Shelby County right now?
Well, to me, the biggest concern is that the county is tasked with three constitutional responsibilities: education, health, and safety. Those constitutional responsibilities aren't being catered to in a proper way. Very little attention is being paid to those entities. I think there ought to be more interaction between county government and the school district. I don't think if there had been, we would be where we are. I believe that safety, there's no interaction between county and the mayor and the sheriff's department. Again, if there had been conversations about how we can collaborate to make this community a better place, I think we would have a better situation. And health is the same situation. We're looking at a request right now for $1 billion coming from Regional 1 to build a new health facility. There's very little conversation about what that's going to look like. I know there's been a $350 million commitment made to Region 1, and there's an additional ask of $500 million. But has anyone seen any plans? Has anyone seen anything in writing that talks about the proposed services that are going to come into play with this $1 billion offering? We're not communicating appropriately in those key areas that we are tasked with being responsible for. And I think through communications and collaborations, not only would we be in the better positions in those key three areas, but we'd be a lot better at making economic development, which is my fourth platform position. Economic development with a focus toward workforce development. Again, eliminating such a need for asking for fee increases and property tax increase. If we start increasing our revenue opportunities, if we start creating jobs, things would be a lot better from an economic perspective.
Okay, yeah, so that was a loaded question, and you gave a lot there in that answer, so I do want to break down each one kind of specifically. And when you talk about money, we know you're a businessman, so you are the one that would know how to navigate those situations. But you mentioned education, so when we talk about the county and education and what we've seen with MSCS, I do want to ask, just especially with the county mayor coming in next year, this will have followed whatever's going to happen with this state takeover or intervention, and essentially possibly talk of a new board potentially taking over MSCS. So what are your standpoints about how the state has intervened, or if it will intervene, or does it need to intervene?
I think there needs to be intervention. I don't believe it's appropriate for the state to come in and attempt to take over the school district, but intervention is clearly needed. Again, from my perspective, over a decade of major issues over and over occurring. When I talk about this community being in the hole, the school district is definitely a part of that I have seen historically be in the dark hole without any potential, without any conversation about how we improve that environment. Yes, I do believe intervention ought to be a part of what we look to do, because we got a $1.8 billion budget over district. When you look at the operation, the business and operational side of things at the district, there's huge troubles. There's huge issues that we hadn't even started to talk about. Most of the conversation has been around academics and how do we improve the lives of our kids, which is a very important topic. But where I think the rubber meets the pavement, our business and operational side of the district is not being oversaw by the appropriate people, neither is the academic side. So we got two separate sides of the district that are in total disarray, and we need experienced individuals who have the ability to go over and talk about how best to operate the district from a business perspective. And you need a set of people who truly have experience around academics that could talk about how we improve the academics of the district. With all due respect to the board, we got a lot of people on the board that are faithful, committed advocates, but they don't necessarily bring the appropriate level of experience. The advocacy role is fine and dandy, there's a place for it. However, at this time in our school district, we desperately need someone with expertise around academics.
Okay. And then moving from education, you also mentioned crime, and the top headlines there obviously make the news all the time. So I know one thing is the jail.
Right.
You know, your thoughts or approach to how to fund a new 201 Poplar and then how to improve it past these recent inmate deaths and addressing that and just making it safer and the improving conditions.
Well, I think we've gone past improving that facility. I think it has lived its stay. I'm supportive of a new jail system. I am more so important and supportive of the notion that we put it in a different location. And this might have something to do with my business aspect. However, I don't think 201 Poplar needs to be at 201 Poplar. I think the jail system, the court system, should be at another location, moved outside of our business district. Today, 201 Poplar sits in the heart of our business district. There are definitely better reuse opportunity for not only 201, but juvenile court. Take a thought around the concept of being able to create a justice complex whereby 201 Poplar, the jail and the courts, juvenile court system, the detention center, and jail east are moved to one central location, and we call it the justice complex. Those two properties that I mentioned first, 201 Poplar and juvenile court on Adams, are great properties, great pieces of properties that other entities would be very interested in purchasing and redeveloping. Victoria Village is where the juvenile court system is. And I just happen to own a bed and breakfast in the Victoria Village neighborhood. Historical neighborhood with great Victoria homes. But my point is, it's a great opportunity for both of those locations to serve under redevelopment efforts, something that could create revenue. Again, my whole process is going to be how do we create more revenue for the community versus increasing fees and increasing property tax. This is an opportunity for us to create a vehicle that will bring redevelopment to those two sites, therefore creating opportunities for new jobs.
Okay, we will get a little bit more into the business aspect here. One more question about crime, just crime as a whole in Shelby County and in Memphis. If you were to be county mayor, what strategies would you use to try to get a grasp on it or prevent crime or reform the criminal justice system?
So the first thing that I would attempt to do is to create a better communicating strategy between MPD and county government. When you take a look at the communication level between MPD, the Sheriff Department, and the various different municipalities, Germantown, Collierville, You know, there's 7 municipalities within county government, and we're not talking to one another. There's opportunity as shown in models in other parts of the United States where major cities and counties, surrounding counties, are joining forces in order to protect, patrol, and provide safety environment. Those type of models ought to be looked at and talked about here in Shelby County. Shelby County Crime Commission has tried to bring forth some conversations around how we better collaborate together. It's just never been supported by the appropriate leadership. I would be one that would want to bring that conversation front and center to the table, ensuring that not only Shelby County, when I said Shelby County, I'm talking about the other 6 municipalities and the city of Memphis are at the table talking about how we work better together in order to provide safety for our community as a whole.
Okay. And when we touch on your business background and experience, and you already mentioned health with Regional 1 and what that looks like, and how do you feel about just helping small businesses as well? I mean, you're a CEO of your own company, so I do want to talk a little bit about development here. A new Regional 1, would that look like, you know, what do you think about contracts with local businesses, or how do you build up local businesses and also bring in major developers into Shelby County?
Well, so I first have to share with you, speaking from my background perspective, I am a small business owner. Gibson Company consists of 3 small businesses that I started from scratch, each and every one of them. A wholesale distribution business, real estate development, and commercial printing. Small business is 75% of the business population. They ought to be given a lot more respect and support around how they not only establish business opportunities in the various different corporations, but how they are supported by government opportunities. Having started each one of those businesses from scratch, you can imagine, I've seen it all, trying to make payroll, trying to create opportunities as a small business to get into the healthcare industry, for example. The first business is wholesale distribution of medical supplies. So as a small business, it was a huge mountain climb to try to get into that system. And if we had had more support, we could have made these things happen more often. My point is that I bring to the table that experience. Not only do I have the experience of running 3 diverse businesses, it shows the courage, it shows the tenacity, it shows the vision that one has to have in order to be able to create these opportunities and bring these opportunities to the table. When we talk about the business experience that I bring to the table, a lot of it can be realized in the way that we position this community to deal with outside sources. I mentioned to you while we were preparing for this that there could have been conversation with XAI around what they're going to do to support the community. There could have been and should have been conversations around how do we ensure that the community feels safe with what you're proposing. Because this is not the first time this community has had to deal with these type of issues. If we had been more thoughtful, the leadership had been more thoughtful in preparing to bring Elon Musk into the community, things could have been handled a lot different. Now we got people who are scared. They don't know right from wrong because that's not their world. That's not many of our worlds. We don't know what really this supercomputer thing is all about. But our leaders should have been at the table holding conversations. And again, from my personal perspective, having that business experience, you have the experience to be able to talk about how to prepare. You have that experience to be able to negotiate and be able to leverage situations so that the community is taken care of in all of these situations of trying to create economic development. What's good for Elon Musk has to be good for this community and vice versa. And I think my business experience has taught me the importance of creating those win-win situations. And that's why I think it's very, very important that we now have someone who has a business background versus a political, bureaucratic background.
So the argument, since you brought up XAI, we've heard this infamous quote from a Memphian who attended one of those meetings that all money is not good money. But then you also have the argument that Memphis hasn't seen enough business growth in decades, and this is good for the city and good for the county. So would you, with your business expertise, be able to distinctly identify what is good money and what is bad money, or what is good for, I mean, you said you could, but Memphis has been in a stalemate when it comes to development.
Memphis has truly been in a stalemate as relates to development. And yes, I do believe that I bring to the table the unique experience of being able to decipher what's good and what's bad. You know, coming up from scratch, there was many opportunities whereas I was giving business opportunities, but if I had taken those business opportunities, they would have overwhelmed me in the beginning. That's what some people mean when they talk about all money is not good money. So if you take on too big a piece of a pie in the beginning of your career, it can overwhelm you and do you in. So it's the same thought process. You don't want to accept money from somebody who's going to turn around and sock it to you with environmental issues, right? But there's a way of taking care of both. There's a way of being able to have that corporate entity do the right thing for the community around those areas that we need support. At the same time, be able to hold that corporate community, individual company, feet to the fire to ensure that the environmental concerns are met. You can do that. You can chew gum and negotiate what's good for the community at the same time.
You talk a good talk, I would say. I do want to switch a little bit now to when we talked about you as a businessman and that so much expertise there. We know that you have a robust history in business. So your competitors all have experience in county and city elected offices, as well as some holding county positions in the government right now. So you being a businessman, you've served on various boards for the airport and as well as a lot of the arts organizations around here. How does your expertise and history in business compare to some of the competitors who have actually held government office?
Well, I would submit to you that's the problem. They hadn't done anything beyond the governmental positions they've held. When you talk about being able to serve on various different corporate boards throughout the community, when you talk about having served on non-for-profit boards throughout the community, you gain that experience. You gain that knowledge of what could be done to bring together non-for-profits with for-profit entities, and then toss a little government in there. I got a project that I'm working on right now that does exactly that. And what I'm submitting to you is that because of my history of understanding and have the appreciation from the business perspective, having been a philanthropist who's given to non-for-profit organizations year after year after year, having been a non-for-profit organization myself, my non-for-profit entity is a real estate development piece that's built senior housing, that's renovated historical properties. So I understand all three of those areas whereby I'm suggesting could and should be brought to the table to advance the issues that are troubling this community. Crime, youth violence. There's an opportunity that's sorely being missed because we don't have the diversity, we don't have the vision as leaders to bring those entities together that are touching those individuals today. And if we gave them more resources, if we all gathered around them to give them the support on the work that they're doing now, there will be a tremendous effect realized in this community, a tremendous positive effect. And I'm just submitting to you our elected officials, those who have served as politicians for multiple terms, those who are bureaucrats. They just don't think that way. And that's what's keeping us in a hole. We have continued to hire and elect. I'm on that mindset.
Yeah.
We continue to elect those who don't have the vision. They're accustomed to doing things a certain way. And we honestly, Pepper, have got to get past that traditional way of doing business. We have seen in other parts of this state whereby when business leaders take over the leadership of the community, in Nashville with Bredesen, Nashville took off. In Chattanooga with Corker, Chattanooga took off. In Knoxville with Haslam, Knoxville took off. We deserve the same opportunity here in Memphis, and we have that opportunity with J.W. Gibson to be the leader of this community that can facilitate. That's what I've done all my life. With the visions that I've been able to bring together with these 3 different corporations that operate, we didn't do that alone. We had to bring to the table the support that we needed in order to make those things a reality, to convene and create collaborative efforts. That's what I've done for 34 years. And I believe bringing that to the county, where we so desperately needed to see it happening throughout those 7 municipalities, I think I'm the right person for the right time to do that.
Okay. They are telling me that we're getting close to time, so I do have a couple of lasting questions. We know that you ran for city mayor in 2023, and it was an unsuccessful run there, but tell me what you learned from that campaign and what's going to be different running for county mayor.
So I wouldn't call it unsuccessful at all. I did not win truly enough, but that doesn't, to me, describe or classify what success looks like.
And pardon me, shouldn't have said unsuccessful.
Because at the end of the day, out of 19 or so people who ran, I came in 5th, came in over 2 elected officials, people who were actually serving elected positions. What it did do for me was give me an opportunity to talk about what's important to me and what I had heard from the constituents as to what might be important to them. And that message got heard. So I was very satisfied. I thought it was a success in its efforts, mainly because of the time that we got in. We didn't have a whole lot of time left. We got in too late. I learned that the hard way. But nonetheless, I was compelled because of the frustration that I feel with the leadership in this community, that something needed to be said. And I wanted people to know my level of commitment. I paid for that campaign myself, pretty much. And again, it's all around the messaging that I'm trying to send. I'm not just one of these people who's talking. I'm willing to walk the talk. I'm willing to put forth a solid evidence of my commitment to this community, solid evidence around ideals and concepts that I know can work. And we're willing to put them to the test and let the constituents see whether or not they work.
Okay.
Those are the things that I learned from that campaign. Let's do it instead of just talk. Let's show that it can be done. And again, in my 34 years history as a businessman, as a philanthropist in the community, we've shown that we can make things happen. Hattie Lou Theater, what we're doing with Rock and Soul Museum today. We're talking and we're walking that talk, right? None of these other candidates can tell you how they've been able to envision something and bring that vision to a reality. All they can tell you about is taxes and fees that they've increased, that they've been a part of. This community is ready for something totally different. Someone who can create those collaborations. Collaborative efforts have become a buzzword in this community. People don't even really pay it any attention anymore. But I'm here to tell you and show you through my acts in the community that collaborative efforts is the major way that this community is going to be able to overcome its issues. It's the major way, Pepper. And I bring that ability to bring people together to collaborate. I've done it for years and we will continue to do it.
Okay. Couple last questions because we asked the others. I want to know about your fundraising approaches or strategies. Are you going to be self-financing this campaign or where do you stand with fundraising? No,
I'm not looking to finance this campaign, but I'm not worried about fundraisers. We do plan to have a very active fundraising schedule. We're hiring the necessary consultants to support us in that effort. We're going to have a team of players supporting this candidacy, unlike we did last time around. So we're going to have the necessary people, the resources, in order to not only fundraise appropriately, but get the message out appropriately. We have the ability to identify those people who are ready and willing to vote. And we were ready and willing to create messages around those individuals, their issues, what we believe are answers to those issues. So this data analyst piece that we're plugging in this time around is very key. To me, it's more important than the fundraising consultant that I'm hiring. But those are pieces of the campaign that we're putting in place that's different from last time around. And I believe with the timing in which we're starting this campaign, the end result will be different.
And if you're not super worried about the fundraising, then how much are you depending on endorsements? And do you have any already that you're willing to share?
No, I'm not ready to share pretty much anything. I hadn't announced officially that I'm running. I've stated and I continue to talk about my preparation to launch a very successful campaign. So I'm not ready to announce any of that stuff.
Okay.
But I will submit to you, Pepper, that when it comes to endorsements, they're not as strong as they used to be. You know, they're not like back in the Ford days when the Ford machine was endorsing and creating the leaders that we had to deal with. People aren't really that caught up on endorsements. What it does say is that you do have people who support you. And it's always good to know that you got people who support you. But as it relates to turning those endorsements into votes, and that's where the rubber meets the pavement, I don't think it's that important. I really don't think it's as important as it used to be. What's more important is being able to identify those who are likely to vote and get a good read on who they are, what they're concerned about, and addressing those concerns directly in multiple ways. Various different medias. You can email them, you can text them, you can call them, you can do radio, you can do so many things to really reach out and touch those individuals. That's where I think my focus is going to be mostly spent around.
Okay, well, my last question here is just you're going to have to get more than the city on your side this time. This is going to be county, as you said. How do you plan to convince voters in the rural areas as well as the suburbs and in Memphis as well?
Well, one of the things that I think is very interesting in my conversations thus far, the timing this time around is different than any other time I've ever experienced. I've had opportunity to speak with leaders in the 7 municipalities, and they are eager for collaborative efforts. They are eager, Pepper. I can't say that enough. This notion of how you convene them to make them feel a part of that collaborative effort is going to be the key. And again, I think I have a lot of experience with being able to convene people and define what their roles would be. And we're not just defining for them, they're defining for us through conversations what role they're interested in playing. Again, when I talk to those different leaders in the 7 municipalities, they all are talking nowadays about how we look forward to someone who's looking to pull us together versus separating us. And that might be hard to believe as you hear some of the conversations from the Republican Party, new efforts. But when you talk to those who are boots on the ground, those leaders of those communities, they are talking about collaboration and coming together.
Okay, all right. Well, you heard him speak his piece. Thank you, J.W. Gibson, for being here. We appreciate it. If you want to catch any of the other interviews with our county mayoral candidates, you can catch it on abc24.com or the 24 Plus streaming app. Thank you for watching.